Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 59th audio chat on the Q News Patriot Rumble Channel series. I'm the Q News Patriot coming to you today with fertility and spiritual birthing coach Dayna Ruben. My name is SG Anon. One of the beautiful parts of the Great Awakening is we get to have multi-angular discussions over just about everything. And the stigma and stigmata of fear that has circulated around and sort of this very odd disconnection of humanity in our social circles has really disempowered a great deal of that. And we're reclaiming that space. What was very exciting when Miss Ruben and I first connected is her focus on the divine feminine, how the birthing process, the fertility process, the pregnancy process really plays into not only the health of the next generation, but also the mental and spiritual health and empowerment of the next generation as well. And it can do wonders for ours also, but we have to have the tools, the knowledge, and the basis of understanding to move forward in a light and love-based way in order to accomplish that. I'm honored to have Miss Ruben on the show today. Dayna, thank you for joining us.
It's such a pleasure to be here, SG. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, the pleasure is truly mine. And one of the things I thought was very valuable for my audience out there for you to be able to offer to my audience out there is some high level overview about something that's very sacred. We have the procreative process here in the world that has been under assault essentially since COVID-19. Really, when we do the deep dive research, we learn that the biological terrorism component against reproductivity in general has been going on a very long time. And so there's a very spiritual component to this. There's a very I guess you could say esoteric or next level important component to this. I'm struggling to find some words to convey just the gravitas of what I'm trying to encapsulate here. Before the audience, if you could, before we get into the heavier part of our discussion, do you care to give just a background and an overview how you came to this practice, what your experience is, and who you are?
Yes, absolutely. So my background is more of a late bloomer background. I got married at 36 for the very first time. We had our children at 38 and 40. So for me, I did have that weight that a lot of folks endure during infertility, but it was completely different. It was more like waiting for the partner and to finally find, the father of my children, my husband. So after that, we basically got married, and then 9 months later, we found out we were pregnant. And within that 9 months, I was using the term trying to conceive. And every time I said it, and this is a very popular term, we use it all the time, you see it on social media, it did not feel right. And I realized that that term was actually truncating and inhibiting fertility. Because when you try to do something, you're not obtaining it. And the universe is very literal. When you say, I am trying, the universe is going to come right back to you and say, oh, you want to try? You want to get on a hamster wheel and try something for a very long time? Go right ahead. So how do you sell IVF treatments that are crazy expensive if you can't, if you, without stopping the creativity of couples, you have to insert it into the words. So basically, we stopped saying that. We said, practicing towards pregnancy and just having fun, things like that. So speeding up to when we found out we were pregnant, it was really exciting, of course. And as soon as we found out we were pregnant, then I was completely and utterly fearful of the actual birth scenario. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I was at a 10. Well, completely fearful because you always hear all these crazy stories. So I I focused on my ancestors. My mother's mom had 9 children on the island of Jamaica and Bahamas, and they were all home birth, all with midwives. And my dad's mom had 5 with the same scenario. And so I thought about my mom's mom a lot because 9 children that's a lot in our day and age. And
Incredible.
when I went through the hypnobirthing and I figured out what that was, hypnobirthing is a way to go inside and really connect with the internal aspects of birth. I learned that I had a friend who did hypnobirthing, so I tried a different modality called blissborn hypnobirthing. It was off the charts. It was amazing. I practiced for my birth like it was an Olympics of birth, and I was going to get that gold medal. And I ended up having a beautiful birth. The first birth was 3 hours and of labor and delivery for my water breaking to the baby being born at the hospital at the time. I decided to go there for the first birth. And that included a 40-minute travel time in the car. So, I was really focused. I got there, I was 10 centimeters dilated. That means you're ready to go. I was so calm that they were asking me to write paperwork. I'm like, I'm ready. So they checked me. I'm like, oh, you're ready to go, because they don't see calm women coming in for birth. And the day he was
Fascinating.
born, right? Yeah, the day he was born, it would have been my grandmother's 100th birthday. So they were born on the same day. And she passed away at 97, so it was still pretty fresh. She had a very long life. The second birth was a home birth. He came 6 weeks early, so same scenario, but this time my husband was able to catch the baby at the front door while we were trying to get to the hospital because you can't have a midwife under a certain amount of weeks, which is convenient for hospitals and not for the mother. So basically, that really changed my world. And while I was going through these pregnancies, I was connecting with the soul of the baby. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what I was doing. Um, Part of it it was weird. I didn't know how to explain it. So I did a lot of research, and I learned that our spirit babies, they connect with us before they come earthside, and they give us visions, or they give us, they whisper in our ears, they give us signs like feathers on the floor.
Like how expectant mothers describe names coming to them.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And you'll hear it in a song, or a dream about it. So they were coming to me, and I'm like, what's happening? And so I did a lot of research, and I realized that this is how the ancient ways of fertility, that's how it was. You connected to the soul and spirit of the baby first. Humans used to be fifth dimensional thousands of years ago. And we did not have sperm and egg, because you don't have that as a light body in the fifth density or dimension. Dimensions and densities are different, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But basically, you don't have the physical attributes, so everything is energy. So I started learning about the conception cradle, which is the energy that we have. So we have the Kundalini energy within ourselves. We also have our chakra system, and that creates a column of energy down the spine. So if this is the mother and this is the father, they come together and they create a chalice. You could also call it the Holy Grail. There's reasons why we use these terminologies for fertility. Also, if you look at the tarot, there is the Ace of Cups, which connotes fertility. So the cup, the waters of life. So you basically create the conception cradle, and the baby nestles its energy in that, and that's when conception happens. And that happens like every single time conception occurs, whether you know it's happening or not. It's on an energetic level.
Where two or more are
So
gathered.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I just talked about that in one of my live Zoom calls. So basically, and that's the power of the three, the six, the nine that Tesla talks about. It is creation at a very, very deep level. So I learned about all of that, and I have created my humanitarian project on fertility and conception, and also pregnancy and childbirth. So focusing and getting back to the grassroots of what this is all about. We are creative beings. We are given the gift from God to create life on this planet. And not just the divine feminine, but the divine masculine, bringing those back into balance, because the divine masculine has been hurt a lot. Men don't cry, boys don't cry, things like that. We're getting back to the emotional essence of why we're here on the planet. And I was just going to focus on like delivery, labor, childbirth, and spirit was pressing me to focus on fertility. And this was before 2021. And then I realized why, because of the statistics around infertility. So that's me in a nutshell.
Incredible. What a powerful story. And you've unpacked so much. And I need a moment almost, I think, to digest some of it. But one of the things that stood out to me, and we're seeing some of this terminology come out, certainly in the last couple of years, but having harkening back as far back as 10 or 20 years ago. And that terminology deals with hypnotherapy, hypnobirthing, hypno recovery. I've heard that as well. And my understanding of hypnosis is that you essentially have multiple types of hypnosis. And the type that most people are familiar with is this idea of weird, suggestible spell work being done on stage, much like a jester or a courtroom. But the hypnotic capability of the human being actually lies in brainwave state, and you can amplify good states and bad states through something as simplistic as hypnosis, but cooperation from the person, in other words, their willingness to consent to whatever is happening, is sort of the basic essence of that, because without that, brain waves cannot align. Is that a correct summary of that process? And if I may, what is hypnobirthing?
Yes, that is correct. So the brainwaves are, well, they slow down a little bit, basically. So just to talk about the hypnobirthing, hypnotherapy, and hypnosis, I'll start with hypnosis just to start on a foundation. They did a study on watching TV, and they connected all the connections that you for the brainwaves, and basically no one could stay out of the alpha state. So you have beta, alpha, theta, and delta, which is sleeping. No one could stay out of the alpha state for 30 seconds or more. Everyone dropped in. I think the average was like around between 30 and 60 seconds. That is hypnosis. So when we watch TV, we're being hypnotized, and it's on a very subconscious level, but it's still happening. It's the same way when you get in a routine of driving to and from work, or whatever is a very routine drive for you. Most accidents happen within 5 to 15 minutes of your home, because you're not sharp, you're not focused, you don't realize, you just get into a habit. That's hypnosis as well. So when we think about hypnosis, and I have told my friends that are not awake that I'm interested in doing more with hypnosis. They're like, oh, you're going to take a shiny piece of something and dangle it in front of someone. It's been bastardized for a reason. It's because it works and they want to use it in a negative aspect. So hypnobirthing is where you really go deep into the inner world, and you get to connect with the pituitary gland, which creates the oxytocin, which opens you up like a flower during birth. Our bodies were built for birth. We were not built to have these traumatic birth scenarios where you hear a lot about long labors, 20 hours, 40 hours, 72 hours of a woman being in labor. No. Our body, God would not give us the gift of procreating on this planet and proliferating life on this planet without giving us the tools to create that life and to bring it into fruition. And this is going to be triggering for people to hear, but number one, the same body parts that are used to create the baby during conception, which creates an orgasm, it's actually supposed to have the same effect during childbirth. Did I have orgasmic births? No. But were they manageable? Absolutely, they were. And we've come to a point where we have birth that is mimicking what you see in the world. I speak with 20-year-olds, and they're completely scared to have birth, and they don't know why, to actually go through the process. And it's because when you're 14 years old and you watch that movie on TV, and you see that woman screaming her head off and writhing in pain when she is giving birth in the hospital scenario, that stays in your subconscious mind, and it gets stuck in there. And that's how the subconscious mind works. And our deletes, our has been world leaders, they knew about this. And that's
So
why they programmed it.
if
Mhm.
I may, I just want to interject here as we go along here, because what you're talking about is neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah,
It's the basis of MK Ultra mind control. It's the basis of co-optive traumatic fear-based mind control. It's the subject of every mind control experiment over the last 100 or so years by some of the darkest forces out there. And what you're saying here, and I just want to make sure that I understand it, is this type of NLP tactic is being deployed in media. And we know that the CIA has been involved in media for about 75 years, at least at this point, and it is helping to create the mental conditions necessary for a traumatic birth experience. Is this correct?
that's correct. And when you boil it down to the nitty gritty, it's a satanic ritual. It's a satanic ritual abuse in Western civilization, whether it's a home birth or a hospital birth. If you are stopping your labor and you go from 9 centimeters dilated down to 4, and you're not progressing, there's a big reason for that. And it's because on a very, very low level, the powers that were, they want people to have traumatic births. What that does is it makes the women traumatized, the baby's traumatized. And when you have that trauma, it creates loosh, and that's what they feed off of, but it also creates tears in the auric field. And this is where it gets a little bit esoteric. Nobody can really see this yet, but as we go and we ascend, you're going to start seeing this more and more. We're going to know that it existed. So, and this is where lower energies that you don't also see, we call them attachments, but they're, you can also call them demons. They hook into the auric field and they traumatize the baby. Also, Pitocin is given in the hospital, and that is something that's supposed to help you along. Oh, we're just going to help you along. Well, the medical staff, they call it pit to distress. Pitocin is synthetic oxytocin. And when I did a deep dive on Pitocin with a friend that is also very intuitive, we found out that Pitocin was also, there's depressants that they put into the Pitocin, and that creates postpartum depression. So they're giving these drugs to you in the hospital, or even at a home birth, you could get Pitocin to move you along, and it's creating a lot of stress.
You're
So
priming a trauma-based matrix.
yeah.
And so that actually leads me directly into my next question, which is about the switching from the birthing experience to the fertility component. You said that was a spiritual drive, that represented a major shift in focus for you after your own personal pregnancy and birthing experiences. Can you tell me a little bit about why that was and how that has looked during this last, say, 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first son, when I connected with him, I was able to really connect with him. The second son, I got nothing. So he was really making me work and look into spirit baby communication. So when I did, I realized that all these energetics were happening. And I wasn't really going to turn this into a part of my humanitarian project. But then after the lockdowns, the 2020, 2021, everyone knows what happened. We saw a lot of infertility. So just to talk to you about some statistics that I have here with regards to the fertility, let me just pull this up. Maternal deaths, they rose by 40% during the pandemic in 2021, and increased in stillbirths, those were reported. So I just interviewed a nurse. Her name is Michelle Spencer. She's out of Fresno, California, and she, on average, would see 4 fetal demises or stillbirths in 1 year. And after the jabs, she started what call them vaccines or so-called vaccines. She saw 1 to 2 per week. That's 240 per year. And in the past 30 years, there's been an average of 74 fetal deaths per year. Now we're seeing 2,838. The average births before the vaccines, the so-called vaccines, the bioweapons, it was 8 million in the US. Post inoculations, our average is around 6 million births. And people like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Christiane Northrup, they talk about this, but I don't know if it's getting enough gumption. People are talking about it enough, or enough spotlight, basically. These jabs were category X. So the categories, and this is something you would never give to an actual patient. The category A would be a multivitamin, B is Tylenol, C would be aspirin. Category X is like giving a
Arsenic.
yeah, basically a statin, arsenic, the morning after pill. So those are some of the devastating uh, statistics. And I really do see in the future that we're going to have class action lawsuits with women, because the patient population in obstetrics, it's not one patient, it's 2. And this is the most vulnerable. So if you can show that it's safe and effective for pregnant women, anyone will take this vaccine, so-called vaccine. And those are really just sad. It's just really sad to me. And what I want to preface with this, and I know you'll get this deeply to your core, SG, is that we hear a lot about the Leviathan in the Bible, and that it is a serpent that has multiple heads, and it lives in the ocean and the sea, and it goes after God's people, and then God takes it over. What if the Leviathan was the nanoparticles in the vaccine? What if the lipid nanoparticles, which go directly to the ovaries and the testes, and the spike proteins that gravitate to the uterus lining. What if the Leviathan was luciferase? The Bible was telling us this whole time to watch out for this, the mark of the beast. We got all these hints, and it happened. It happened in the past couple of years, and now we're seeing it, and it's daunting.
And if I may, considering that's a powerful and compelling spiritual testimony, and I think most of my audience out there would immediately identify with that. What is the answer? Does it lie in infertility, or does it lie in something more? Infertility,
There
excuse me.
is, yes, absolutely. So there's a lot of options with regards to all of this. I think one of the things that we see a lot is the fact that the doctors, there's some of them are talking about them, but most of them are not. Dr. Kimberly Biss, Biss. If you wanted to learn more about the clinical side of all of the statistics, she is a great resource. When it comes to the healing aspects, a lot of this is going to be mental, and actually creating a soft space for women to realize what happened to them, to realize what they said yes to forgive themselves, and to move forward with a lot of grace. And from an energetic perspective, that's where my humanitarian project comes in, just to connect. I have free videos. I have some videos that are on my website, but this is more about helping humanity figure out what happened to them and giving them some space. So offering the esoteric realization of what happened on a very, very high level, and it may be hard for some people to grasp, but we come in with soul contracts. You be the mom, I'll be the baby. I'm going to come in. You're going to hear that this is safe and effective, and we're going to lose each other just for a couple of years, but it's going to wake you up. And sometimes people need to be shook like anything to be woken up. And I don't think I'm even there yet to even talk about this stuff on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, because people are still hitting that brick wall of their ego, and they can't really realize what happened to them. But when they do, they're going to need a place to go and to be heard and to be listened to and be advocated for. So that's the platform that I'm creating, basically. And then from a physical aspect, there are some folks that are offering vaccine healing. The Venus Twins, they're on Rumble. They offer a remote healing for the vaccine specifically. And also the Global Enlightenment Project.org. Christopher Macklin's ministries. He actually is a spiritual healer, and he splits the timelines. So he leaves the vaccine on one timeline, and he's been doing this for years now. And they're actually transmuting. He's transmuting the vaccine and cleaning it up. So those are two folks that I've been in contact with, and I've told them that I would talk about their healing aspects. Root Brands, Clean Slate, a lot of us have heard about that, and maybe even Jim Humble's protocols. But I'm not a doctor, so I'm not offering that, but at the same time, that's the part of it. I'm more working on the actual spiritual, esoteric, and mental part of this, making sure people know that they can be heard.
Powerfully important. We truly strive to give a platform to everyone here at QMP, because it truly is the conversations between we the people that get us back to our roots. We are spiritual beings. We need to stand back up, take charge of our own power and our own nature, and leverage that once again to our benefit and for God's benefit here in the world. Dayna, it's been fantastic getting a chance to talk to you today. For the audience out there, I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. If you'd like to connect with Dayna and learn more, you can go to www.fromfertilitytodelivery.com, and you'll find her social links there. I'll be back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.